Hello, everybody. This is Dorie Clark, and we're here with our weekly Newsweek interview show, Better, where we talk to authors, business executives, entrepreneurs, and leaders about strategies for making your life better. And our guest this week is my homeboy, John Hall. John is the co-founder of calendar.com. He is the author of the book Top of Mind. And we're going to be talking about how to make a lasting impression on your audience, how to stay top of mind, and how to build relationships built on trust. John Hall, great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I love joining things like this with people who kind of align with the topic. And some of the things we're talking about, I can't say enough about how you engage people and build trust. So I think this will be fun to talk about, and you kind of practice what I preach here.
I love it. That's great. Well, you're practicing what I preach because you are out chillaxing right now, doing your live stream from a gorgeous location. So we're all a little jealous of you, John. This is great. And if you are tuning in live, please feel free to type into the chat box and let us know who you are and where you are dialing in from. We'd love to hear from you and also to take your questions for John Hall. So, John, my first question: you wrote a book a while back called Top of Mind. Now, we all know that these days we are just subjected to almost endless amounts of noise, of people competing for our attention. What is it that we need to know, if you're a person, if you're a company, about how you actually can begin to break through some of the noise? What are the main things that people need to be aware of in this incredibly crowded marketplace?
Yeah, so the most important thing is that from the top, like the leadership kind of buys into this mindset of engaging others, because leaders can be very focused. Actually, I was on the phone with the CEO yesterday that was just money, 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 ROI and things like that. And so for me, that stuff is very, very important. But a lot of times they're short-term ways of thinking, when in reality, the best brands that I see have a natural balance between making money, ROI, and building trust and brand. And so when I'm thinking about when I'm going into like talking to a CEO and I'm like, hey, what are the goals? Let's get the money out of the way first, and let's talk about these very high up goals, because I want to put quantitative metrics at the beginning. But then you got to look at is that how can we hit these metrics while also building trust and engaging others, especially right now. There's a lack of trust. I've been talking about this for the last 2 to 3 years, is that you have media issues, you have political issues with trust, you have generational issues with trust. So the first step is getting leadership to buy in and say, look, we value this audience. We want to engage them in a meaningful way. And we're going to align that with our quantitative metrics so that over time, we are looked at as that trusted resource. So at first, it's the mindset, the strategy at the top, because that filters down throughout your whole company. And if the leaders are doing that, it's a wildfire of like greatness of how you engage others.
That's a great point. Thank you very much. We're here with John Hall. He's the author of the book Top of Mind. Now, John, one of the other hats that you wear, you're a bit of a Renaissance man, is you're the co-founder of calendar.com. I know you've spent a lot of time thinking about literally our calendars and how that factors into productivity choices that we're making and how we can best align our life with our priorities. I would love to actually hear more. Here you are with your beautiful vista behind you. What do your average days look like? And how do you personally, as someone who has clearly expended a lot of time and effort thinking about how to lay out your own calendar, how do you think about time management?
Yeah, it's funny when people ask me, because we're involved. I have a holding company that's involved in a lot of different things, and people are like, "Oh, so you're involved in this? You have your hands here?" And I'm like, "It's actually more aligned than you think." Because when you look at my past company, ICO was a company I sold in the past. It was about creating trust through byline content and expertise. And then for me, that's a part of engagement. And then when I got involved with Calendar, for me, one of the biggest reasons why trust and engaging people is that there's a barrier is time. And I think, I don't know if I even told you this story, Dory, before we acquired Calendar, or the domain, and built that out. We were going to build a relationship software that was basically called like Top of Mind. I forgot what the actual name was, but it was a software that would help you engage people that were important to your company and your life in meaningful ways. And we started developing it, and one of the biggest barriers we had was time. people want to be the best version of themselves. I do believe, some people are down occasionally, but in reality, we want to be better, and time is the biggest factor. So that's why we invested in calendar, because, like, for example, I didn't prioritize well. So, like, I would put I used to give my wife the same, like, scheduling opportunity with me as, like, a someone who asks for advice that I don't even know. That is a messed up thing, where now it's like, I naturally, like, when we were building out a calendar, it was like, hey, we want a variety of slots that you can pick. One that was for your spouse or partner. Another one that's for your close coworkers. Another one that's for potential sales leads. And then also, like, I mentor a lot, and so then I have a mentorship link. Now, granted, I love mentorship, but it can't be a priority. Like, I have to put my wife, my business before these things. So then it allowed us to do different kind of scheduling links so that we could naturally prioritize our time. So for me, everything's connected to engaging people, being top of mind, and actually using your time in the best way so that you can do that. Because for me, business is the best, absolute best, when you are not only doing something you care about, but also engaging the people that you want to spend time. Like, when you look at happiness, I think happiness around a company and a person is very influenced by the community that surrounds them and how people look at them and engage them. And so I love having that as an aspect of business, but once again, aligned with business goals. And so I think the more you actually do this stuff, you'll see that people come to you a lot more to do business deals, for business opportunity, because people are naturally a magnet to people they like, similar to you and I. There's a lot of people that do similar stuff that you do, but I check in with you more than them because you're more engaging to me. So I think that that's a key factor in not only being successful in business, but also being happy as well.
I love it. And thank you very much. I'm Dorie Clark. I'm here with John Hall. He's the author of the book Top of Mind. We're talking about how to make a lasting impression and build relationships with your audience. If you are enjoying this conversation, you can check out John's book. Again, it's called Top of Mind. And you can make sure you never miss one of our weekly Newsweek Better shows. Just go to DorieClark.com/LI for LinkedIn. You can follow me there, subscribe to the LinkedIn newsletter, and you'll get reminders about these conversations. So I also want to say hi to some of the great folks who are tuning in from around the world to join us. We want to say hi to our frequent guest, Cheryl from Minneapolis, St. Paul. We've got Rita Marie from Ireland. We've got Melanie from Raleigh, Carlos from Colombia, Bridget's here from San Mateo. We have a LinkedIn friend from California, Dennis from London, Alicia from Oakland, Caroline from London, Nisha from Boston, Meg from Woodstock, Vermont, Southern New Hampshire in the house, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Annette is here from Salisbury, Maryland. Manuel is here from Guadalajara, and Linda from Nigeria. We love having every single one of you. We're glad to have you here and have this conversation with John Hall. Now, John, a question that I have, you're talking about building connections based on trust. A question that comes up a lot in the business world, and it's a little controversial, I guess you could say, because you have the pro authenticity camp, and then you have the I'm going to vomit if I hear the word authenticity camp. So where do you fall in this? How do we think about authenticity when it comes to building trust-based relationships?
Well, it's the realness matters. So authenticity, the funny thing about that is that people like throwing out there as like an advertising campaign, where authenticity isn't like advertising. Authenticity is being real and the best version and the real versions of yourself and your brand and connecting with others. So it's almost like when you're screaming authenticity, I actually try not to write about it as much anymore because I just try and live it and talk and naturally communicate. So yeah, I think it comes off when authenticity over time with a brand and with people is earned. Now, granted, now you can do campaigns and try and build trust quickly, and I've seen some success with that, but to me, it's developing. It's not about a campaign. It's about actually changing behavior in a positive way that is long term, that affects the audience that matters. So, like, I can go in and tell my employees, "Hey guys, all of a sudden, like, be authentic with people and do this," and you might see some short term, but without actually creating long term habits of caring. Like, for example, doing things like personalized notes in our office, doing things where where we are checking in on people when they have important things, that's real. That's like real processes where it's not just like, hey, I heard it was their birthday, do it. Like, you're actually saying, we care about this audience. So, and let's not do it for like, hey, by the way, here's a like a giftology is a good book that is written by a friend of mine where John Rowland talks about like, don't like give something thoughtful and immediately be like, hey, so like I need a sell. So like, do you have any referrals? It's like, that's authenticity campaigns and trust building campaigns that are just naturally, they actually can hurt trust. So for me, it's about the realness, creating long-term processes in play, and also turning into who you are. Like something that I talk about in like my keynotes is a little different than the average business speaker, because I talk about how you are at home. Now, some people are like, why are you talking about how I am with my spouse or my partner or my friends? And I'm like, well, the reason why I want you to become better there is because the better you are at home and with those personal relationships, the better you are in the office. I have a couple friends that have really bad, difficult marriages, and that bleeds into the office, or they have a relationship that bleeds in the office. And so I really try and say, hey guys, here are examples how overall you can not just act and be a campaign, and that you can actually naturally engage people in this way at home, at not just the office. Because if you're like that in other areas of your life, it's not a light switch. It's not like, oh, I'm on, off, on, off. It's actually who you are. And so I think the more you can do that, the more it truly is authentic. And then it's not just looked at as something that you try to do to get short-term trust, or to get a sale or of some sort.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Thank you very much. We're here with John Hall. He's the author of the book Top of Mind. And if you're enjoying this conversation, hit the like button, hit the share button so that your friends can benefit from it as well. And please feel free to type into the chat box. Let us know your questions for John Hall. We're talking marketing. We're talking how to make an impression on your audience and build trust-based relationships. We also want to say hi to our amazing friends. Deborah's here from Los Angeles, Diana from Columbia, South Carolina, Faiz is here from UAE, Zeke from San Benito, Texas, Monica's in the house from Boston, Francis from Accra, we've got Yasmina from Paris, we've got Cliff from Waterdown, Ontario, Hetty is here, we've got Mohammed from or Bima from Georgia. We've got Cheryl from Kearney, Nebraska, and Mario from Redondo Beach. We love having every single one of you here. And John, a question that I have, you also, one of the things you've also done over the years is really built up a lot of expertise when it comes to SEO, when it comes to social media. This is a moment where I think we have a lot of countervailing trends. There's plenty of professionals who feel a little sick of social media. They don't necessarily want to engage, but feel like they have to. Meanwhile, there's so many different channels that people sometimes wonder, do I have to be on all of them? How do I be thinking about this? When it comes to our brands online and building relationships and getting your name known online, how are you thinking about that these days? What would you advise the average professional?
Yeah, so I'm biased in this, obviously. My last like 10, 15 years of my life have been around, my last company, current companies I invest with are all around, this investment in your personal and professional and, general company brands. So I'm very biased, and I think that it's such a good investment in the long term and short term. So, for example, after I sold my last company, one of the first things we did was we looked at I ended up investing in a company called relevance.com, or advising a company called relevance.com. And what I liked about them was they were using these kind of services to invest in companies as well, because and that's why I've started investing in the companies that they service, because I know that if you have a company with a good product with good people, if ultimately you market it and build a brand that's protected, and then you develop a lead generation funnel, you're gonna win. It's just like it's not rocket science to me. It's like people. Like I love people first companies. I first look at that and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Next one, the next one you kind of look at is, okay, product services, where that's at. People are like, wait a minute, you look at the people for the product. I'm like, yeah, when I'm investing, I absolutely do that. And then you look at, the product and service, and you ultimately look at that and you say, okay, now that we have, good product, service, good people, then let's look at what we're doing to be a catalyst to their brand to develop this trust. So that's where I believe in it so much. As soon as my last 3 years of my life is investing in companies that see that, and it pays off really, really well. And that's why I've got involved with relevance.com as the advisor. And so what I would tell everyone here is that, you don't have to do things overnight. Like the best things are long-term planning and making short-term goals of progress. So like when someone's like, oh, should I be, like I was just asked yesterday, it's like, how often should I be involved in LinkedIn? Well, for me, I'm like, okay, first off, the question is, who's your audience? And they're like, okay, are they on LinkedIn? Do you know they're on LinkedIn? It's like, yes. Okay, great. We got that. I see that very constant where everybody's like spreading their social channels where they're like, well, I should be on TikTok. I'm like, your audience is not remotely, you're serving farmers. Farmers are not a big TikTok user. And so I think that that's the first thing you look at is that what's the platforms that I should, and actually invest in one more that has that audience. And yes, maybe do minimal things on the other one. So it's just active accounts because you want that natural showing up for rep management and just an ongoing account if people check them out. But once you find it out, then invest in it and do it right and scale it. When people ask me about my LinkedIn newsletter, it's gotten up to, I think, 360,000 followers that my message goes in their inbox. Well, that started off at 500. It's not like I just was like, oh, by the way, here's 350,000 people that just want to listen to me. That's not the case. You have to work hard, especially me. So I look at that and I'm like, it's an overtime investment. And then also, just set, I would say, quarterly goals on the progress that you want to make, and also try and align it both with your personal and brand goals. A lot of times, like for my companies, or when I'm talking to one of like a client we're advising, I'm like, hey, invest in your people, and hopefully you get in a situation where you not only invest in the people or in yourself, but also the brand, and you align those things, because then you both win. Let's say a company gets acquired, you have a personal brand that's kind of growing some credibility as well. So I'm a very big fan of one, identifying the audience, making sure you're going after the right platform. Two, consistency. And then, three, aligning that content so that you get as much, almost look at it as an orange and squeeze the juice as much so there's legitimately no pulp or juice left in that. And what that means is, are you aligning strategies? Are you, like, for example, when I write for a Forbes or an Inc. or a Fast Company, I'm re-syndicating that on my LinkedIn newsletter weeks after, and I'm crediting that original site. Those are things that are simple social things you can do that are very low effort, but actually maximize the value and align the content.
Love that. We are here with John Hall, who is the author of the book Top of Mind. I'm Dorie Clark, and this is Better, a weekly Newsweek interview show that is every Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, 5 o'clock in London. We want to say hi to Vijaya Kumar, who's joining us from Chennai. We've got Celeste from South Africa. Priscilla's here from Mexico. Jeanette from Chile. We've got Elen joining us. Adnan from Turkey. We've got Engi from the Philippines. Ananda from Bangalore. We've got Lainey from Chicago. Mohammed from Egypt. Karen from Phoenix. Anna from beautiful Vancouver. Eduardo is here from Portugal. We've got Nicole from the Gold Coast of Queensland, Australia, and FA from Accra. We love having all of you here. So a great question, John, came in for you from Hetty in Philadelphia. And Hetty wants to know, what in your experience is the best type of high quality content to get top of mind? We all know there's a lot of low quality content out there. That's not going to do the trick. But what would be your definition of high quality content? And do you have tips for people about how we should be thinking about it and creating it?
Yeah, whatever helps you accomplish your goal. As silly as that is that my answer's changed over time. If you even see me speak 3 to 10 years ago, it's going to be like, here's what high quality content is. It has changed dramatically because there is so much content, and also content is very subjective. Very subjective. Like we are have relationships with a lot of media outlets that we're consistently getting things placed in. And we will send something to one outlet that they'll be like, this is garbage, terrible stuff. And you're like, oh, wow, I thought it was okay. Then you send it to someone else. They're like, this is amazing. We're putting it live. And then it goes viral. And that's what I would tell you is that, like, we view high quality from our eyes, but our eyes don't really matter. What matters is the audience that people are trying to engage in. And does it help you accomplish the goal you're trying to go after? So, like, instead of thinking, hey, by the way, I'm going to send this to an editor. And like, I'll give you an example. There's an editor and writer that's on our team, or is a contracted one, that I think's content is garbage. Honestly, I'm just like, this is not good. And then there's one that's so well, she spends a ton of time on it. I read it, I'm like, God, that's engaging content. That's awesome. We send those articles out. One really wins on views and engagement and impressions, and the other one doesn't. But for the right people, that other one does. So like the one that is the high quality, in my opinion, a small group of people, awesome content. They love it. However, not many people share and see that. So if you're going after a niche audience, that one makes a lot of sense. We were talking to a client the other day that has 200 people in the US that they're trying to target. That's all, 200 people. Well, you better have some high quality content that is exactly what I just described. That's stuff that I really, really like. However, we have another client that, or we have I'll disclose, this one is Gab Wireless, which it's one of my favorite companies out there because it develops basically safe phones and technology for children. I never thought I'd get my kids a phone and a watch, but I ended up doing it because I believe that the future is providing safe technology for kids. And so I love this company. But for them, they need to get as many engaging views as possible. So that other writer that I described, that I don't necessarily, garbage it's not garbage. I'm being a little dramatic here. It's more, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, one writes, in my opinion, at a 5 and one writes at a 9. Well, the 9 typically does really well in those niche audiences. The 5 is good. And if I send that to someone else on my staff, they're like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so weird to me. And so I tend to say, hey, when you're going after smaller audiences, go after more, detailed examples, in-depth pieces and things like that, because that's what's going to engage those people the most for targeted pieces. Now, if you're in Gab's point of view, they have a massive audience. Like their audience is, who has kids or who are parents that care about their kids. That's a lot. And so for them, it's about, reaching the people that are going to enjoy the read. They're not going to need this in-depth dive. And so I think that those are what I just gave you is very clear examples of how it can change on the level of quality, what you're writing, how you're engaging people, and the different, goals you have.
Yeah, such a good point. We're here with John Hall. He is the author of the book Top of Mind. If you're enjoying the conversation, hit the like and share button so that everyone you know can benefit as well. You are doing a mitzvah by sharing. And we also want to say hi to all of our great friends tuning in from around the world. We want to say hi to Ozan from Turkey. Zulima's here from Mexico. We have Annette from Southern California. We've got let's see. We've got Jennifer from Carson, California. Sushma's in the house from India. We have a LinkedIn friend from Italy and many more. And John, Annette has a great question. She is curious about your thoughts. She wants to know, how do you actually tell the difference between companies that say they put people first and the ones who actually do it? How can we tease that out? Everyone wants to claim that this is their value. Not everyone actually is walking the talk. What are your thoughts?
Well, if you're dealing with them, it's very easy to see across the company. There was there was an example of this where I was on a video call the other day, and we were potentially going to have a partnership. Well, there was these people that showed up, 3 or 4 on the team that were really nice. They showed up, their executive showed up, and then all of a sudden everybody's quiet, stiff. And so I can tell by how a team interacts with each other right off the bat. You can just tell, and I'm saying if it's like a partnership or like a sale or something like that, I like asking for multiple people to be on a call, how they interact. You can definitely tell what their culture really is in a first call. And on that call, when I saw that, what it showed me is leadership does not really focus on culture very much, but they seem to like each other, and they probably are against leadership a bit, because you can tell they're just peas and carrots getting along well. Leader shows up, they're quiet, they're walking on eggshells, not happy. And so there's certain things that you can read about a company when you're interacting with them, or with their content. You can kind of tell as you're reading and looking into them that there's a lot of hypocrisy, where it's this. They write about this, but do this. I can tell, especially with individuals, there's a lot of authors. You're one. I would say in the minority are people that practice what they preach. I know someone who wrote one of the best, well-known relationship books out there on the planet, and is terrible to people. So it's for me, I'm like, wow, that's awkward that you actually. And I see them when we get off stage, I see how they treat people, and I'm like, that is not how you should treat people. And so I think that for me, it's just always walking in this situation self-aware of that, or being aware of that, and saying, hey, in reality, trust is earned. And I'm looking at the obvious natural things that are real signals and not just a piece of content. Content is a great way to nurture people and also initially kind of touch base with them at first. And so to me, it's more of a thing where you look at the real situations rather than just reading a piece of content. But content plays a very big part of nurturing and engaging people as well. It's just one part to me. And so that's why I think that you just kind of look at holistically those real situations and kind of read it from there. By the way, thanks a lot. Like, I love these comments, and like a lot of times I jump on things and people don't comment. Like, I love this story. Like, and these are actually like thoughtful, like, hey, what does this mean? And so props to you for like building an audience here. It excites me to see this. So you all, I know, Navin and Angela and Annette, there's just a lot of questions coming. Feel free, we run out of time here, to message me directly on LinkedIn and connect with me so that I can answer those, because I know we're not going to be able to get to anybody, but I do value you guys are spending time listening to me chat. So I'll spend some time trying to engage with you. So just wanted to say that before we get off.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And even Philip the cat is tuning in. So that's positive. So we are very grateful for all of you who are tuning in and asking your great questions. We want to say hi to Fartun from Windsor, Canada. We've got Doreen in the house from Ohio. Mariana's from Chicago. Henry's from South Africa. Blessing is joining us. Angela from North Carolina and DC. Gabriel is here from Mexico, and many more, including Arinola from Nigeria. And John, a great question came in from our friend Adnan in Turkey. Now, Adnan has a concern that I think probably a lot of people share, and says, investing in myself and trying to have a brand is a little weird because I'm a person and not a company or a product. How do I deal with the inner critic around personal branding or self-promotion? What would you say to that?
Oh, it's one of my favorite signs that somebody's like a good, humble and non-egotistical person. And so I like that, is that, like, I love how that's a concern, but you have to get over it. And what I mean by getting over it is that you look at it as you are a vehicle for your success and your company and future company success. You are think of it as a car. You want to get, a better engine, a better, thing, because you're basically driving things a lot of times to success. And also a company's success, your own success, is around that brand, your own education, how you're perceived, your relationships. And so to me, that is a great thing. I admire it when people say it to me, but I immediately cut it off. I'm like, thank you for sharing that with me. I like your humbleness and I like how you care. However, we've got to throw that out the window, because there's a couple things. One, I'm very passionate about getting people that are humble, engaging, that actually aren't egotistical maniacs out there, because the problem is that this next generation, if they're only led by people that are visibly egotistical and they're just like, I'm awesome, go buy a Mercedes and show people how rich I am by this Mercedes or helicopter, then this next generation, we're going to be screwed, honestly, by, that leadership. I was blessed to have a generation above me that worked hard, that engaged people in ways that was amazing and cared about others. And I think we have to look and we have to say, hey, for those of you who might have that barrier, one, as a good person that has experiences that you can share with people, you should want to do that to be, helpful. And also you're typically the right person to do it, because you have that barrier of humbleness with you, which is a great sign. Then the next thing is, if you do that, you're going to miss out on opportunities to lead your company. Like, I'll give you an example. There was a company recently that was like, well, we're doing fine. We've had 15% year over year growth, so I don't need to do that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a wrong way of looking at it. And I'm like, I'm excited about your growth. I think that's great. But you don't know, that could have been 20, that could have been 25%, that could have been 30. Because I do know companies in your area that are growing at that rate. And they're like, oh, well, what do you mean? I'm like, you can't look at it as we're doing good, so we don't have to do that. What you have to do is you have to, as a leader, as someone at the company, if you truly care about the success, you have to say, what are we doing to have the optimal amount of success that we truly can put things in place so that we actually get it. And that's why a lot of times people, they look at success and they say, hey, I've seen some success, I don't necessarily need to do that. Or but in reality, the best companies, if you look, have an element of thought leadership. They invest in their brand. What's nice about I see a lot of the companies that Relevance takes on, and when I look at what the types of businesses they bring, the leaders are like that, and I love that about them because they do care. They like tend to be less egotistical ones, but if you do it the right way and earn it. So that's what I'm very big on, is like earning and not like trying to hack it, not trying to be showy. And what I mean by earning is it's like consistency over time, building followers that trust you. Being engaging in a way where you're not losing that trust. Like you're not, going there and misleading them just for, dollars. You're trying to align your dollars with their trust over time. And so, investing and protecting your brand from a standpoint of right now, we have a lot of haters out there. It doesn't matter. Even the Dorie Clarks and the nice people of the world are going to have haters. And what you have to do is you have to be proactive with your rep management. And part of doing that is investing in your own brand. So if somebody down the road bashes your company or your brand in some way, you want to be a force, because Google and search engines do look at your brand as a credible force, and they're going to start valuing when you're involved in things. Like one of the things we're starting to recommend is on your site, have different experts contributing, and also, their profiles. Like I'll probably ask Dorie to blog on a Relevance or a calendar site or something in the future, because her brand brings credibility to a brand, and that's valuable. And I think that's the future, is that things like Google and online marketing, there's so much there's so much of a lack of trust there, that when you involve people that are credible and you and like have that kind of built up investment, then you become this force together, and your companies that you're involved in are going to succeed more. So in short, if I have a couple sentences, I appreciate the question because it shows the type of person, but now you have to get over that barrier and be a true engine and vehicle for the things you get involved in. And so you got to get past that and realize that you're doing it for the right reasons.
Wonderful answer. Thank you so much. We've been here with John Hall. He is the author of the book Top of Mind. We want to say thanks to everyone tuning in from around the world to join us, including but not limited to Sophia from Uruguay, Marcos from Brazil, and a LinkedIn friend from Barbados. We love having you every Thursday, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. And John Hall, what is the best way for people who are intrigued by you and your work to find you and get in touch?
I mean, really, I'm not too hard to like I said, I practice what I preach. I want to make sure that people can follow and engage me. So, I mean, if they want to connect on LinkedIn, just say, hey, I'm from Dorie's thing, and I'll connect and try and respond. If you're checking out some of the things when it comes to trust with like the PR, the SEO stuff, I write for Relevance now, and that's a company I advise, so relevance.com. If it's about productivity or time management, scheduling, calendar.com, or pick up the book Top of Mind. Or I mean, I'm speaking less and less these days, but if if companies do look for speakers, I will occasionally, if it's from one of these things, I'll commit to it. But those are pretty much the common ways to get in touch with me.
Fantastic. John Hall, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone joining us this week. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Dorie.